Hello, my name is Robin Mitchell and welcome to this podcast for Electropages. In this episode, I am joined by Ralf Hellwig from RS. Is it specifically RS DACH?
Yes, exactly. I'm the managing director for DACH, DACH region, but I'm talking about the group today.
RS Group in general.
Exactly.
And today we're going to be discussing the environmental symbols and the sustainability actions that RS is taking. Now, one quick question I have before we start. What does DACH actually mean?
Germany,
Deutschland,
Austria, Switzerland.
Oh,
all the German-speaking countries.
That makes sense now, because I was actually Googling it. I couldn't find much on it. I was trying to figure out what it meant, if it was some kind of special department. But it's Deutschland. Yeah, okay, got it. I got it now. Brilliant. Fantastic. So, in this release, in this update that you guys have been providing, could you just basically describe what it is that RS is trying to do with sustainability?
Yeah. So RS, we have some real hard and strong targets for our ESG journey 2030. I will not talk about the targets. What we do talk and what we love to talk about are achievements. And that's probably the difference between others who are using this ESG etiquette in many instances, where we do see a lot of greenwashing in the moment happening.
Yeah.
So what we do is really we measure what we do in terms of CO2 reduction plus all the other related topics on the ESG journey. And it's not environmental only. It's also about social and governance.
I think that, like you said with greenwashing, it's a real shame that a movement that was started to try and improve the environment has turned. There is an industry of people. We'll give you a great example. It's carbon credits. You know, the idea of our company's carbon neutral. We just buy the credits from somebody else. So you're just offsetting it. You're not actually doing any real action. And so, like you say, it's nice to see a company that's actually saying, you know what, we're not going to be following these greenwashing plans. We're going to actually do something that actually makes a difference.
Yeah.
But my first question about that is, we all know that sustainability is important, but we also know there are many misleading symbols out there that often confuse the public. And I'll give you a great example. You get those recycling symbols on product packaging. They don't actually mean they're recyclable. It just gives you a code of what the material is with the arrows to try and make you think it's recyclable.
Yeah.
How do you plan to get around that challenge?
So firstly, we work together with some real accredited enterprises who do the certification of the product. Each and every single product we sell, we ask our suppliers to provide this accreditation from the certificate enterprises. So that's one element important for us. And the other element, how we measure our own CO2 level 1, level 2 consumption. That's all, again, credited by some external providers. And the most important one, and that's what we are really proud of, is EcoVadis label.
Right.
EcoVadis is an institute who's doing all the measuring on the sustainability area. And we are awarded now with the platinum status. Platinum status means only 1% of the enterprises attending this EcoVadis journey are assigned to this platinum status. And that's something we are really proud of.
That means of all the companies a part of that accreditation system, you are in the top 1%.
Absolutely. That's
pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And this accreditation organization, I take it has a way that individuals can authenticate a claim that someone has accreditation. So, for example, one thing you will often see is that products will slap on random markings, CE, UKCA, when they don't actually have that accreditation. They just put it on there and shove it onto the market.
Yeah.
So I take it, if someone tries to do that with this label, are there mechanisms that basically prevent that from happening?
One element, and that's important one, we do see in our market, of course, a lot of counterfeit products, where we absolutely see these certifications labeled on the product, but it's not a real proper certification behind, because it's counterfeited. What we do, we buy just from the real original manufacturer of the product. And from the valued and really good manufacturer, rather than the cheapest one. So that's one part of this journey.
And counterfeit chips can be an absolute problem as well. On the topic of counterfeiting, especially during the COVID crisis, where you couldn't buy a chip to save your life, and I think there were companies that were, I think one automotive company who wasn't named was actually buying washing machines and scrapping them just to get the parts out of them. So, I can imagine people get desperate. Now, how does a company actually check CO2 emissions and water usage? Because I understand it's not just CO2, it is also water usage, because water is a valuable resource and it is running out.
It's water, and the other element is packaging and landfill.
Of course, yeah.
So these three elements, it's CO2, it's water and landfill, what we focus on. And we measure it with our internal resources because we have our own organization behind. So from the very top, we have a president in place reporting directly into our CEO in charge for the ESG journey. So we measure with our own resource, with own people, all the KPIs we put behind that. For instance, CO2 reduction is element, or the largest element on that is energy consumption. So in our DCs, distribution centers, we measure the heating and the machine energy consumption. That's something what we can measure directly on the machine.
Because I imagine that with a company like RS, because you're a distributor of parts, you have to have very carefully controlled environments, humidity, temperature, all those kind of things. So that's going to need a lot of equipment to run. And so, but you're saying that what you do is you actually measure at the source, not as just a generic kind of figure that you sort of pull out of thin air, thinking this machine runs X amount of time. No, you actually measure it on the machine.
Correct. So, for instance, we put in our Bad Hersfeld, which is the newest DC, half of the roof is covered with solar panels, and we can measure directly before and after the energy consumption. So that's a pretty easy one, and right at the moment we're quite proud. Even just half of the roof is covered. More than 40% of our energy consumption is done through the solar panels.
And on that topic of sustainability as well, and all areas of the business, I imagine packaging can be quite a problem too, especially for distributors when you've got so many parts coming in, you've got all kinds of packaging with things coming in, and then you repackage them and send them out. So how do you deal with that on an industrial scale?
So it's a end-to-end approach, as you can imagine, from our suppliers. We have a very, very tough requirement in terms of how they pack and how they're delivered to us. So it's not only the packaging, it's also the route to deliver. So we put, especially for our strategic suppliers, very clear rules in place, not to waste or landfill our goods in department. And the next one, what we send out from the goods out department, just one example, when we pack a product or products for our customers, the boxes we are using, they're without any filling material anymore, because we compress the box till the product is put in between the box parts. So no more filling or plastics in there.
I must admit, the distributors shall remain unnamed, but I have seen several distributors when they give you a few chips and you open the box is this big. It's about 90% cardboard stuffing, and then you've got another package within a package, and you finally get the part you want. And I have always thought to myself that it doesn't seem moral from an environmental point of view. It just seemed a bit odd. But a question which I actually have. Which relates to China, is China is probably I think it is the world's biggest manufacturer and distributor and supplier of stuff. But it's also known that Chinese products can suffer from counterfeit issues. They can suffer from quality issues and IP issues. Do you find it difficult working with China in general? Or do you find that you've come up with your own supply chain, so it basically doesn't cause you issues?
Right. So, of course, we try to minimize our dependency on China.
Of course.
So when we get the similar or same product from the continent here in Europe or other markets, we prefer to buy it from there. that's one element to de-risk our dependency.
So if you're going to buy some TI parts, you'd go directly to TI in Texas itself.
Yeah.
You wouldn't go to TI China, which still sells the original parts, but to minimize the risk, you just get it from the companies.
Yeah, exactly. So it's risk minimization, but also CO2, because the supply route, the journey in between China and us in Europe, it's huge, absolutely. And delivery times as well.
Of course, it's faster if you get it from America. Now, there is something that I saw on your what do you call it? Oh, I completely forgot that name. The announcement.
Yeah.
And you talk about potentially the idea of a product passport. Now, for me, this is something that kind of concerns me. But do you see product passports becoming a thing where they can track the CO2 that product has basically generated over its whole lifetime?
Right. So again, with our strategic suppliers, and some of them are a bit more mature on this journey, some of them less, they provide in their entire end-to-end production journey, they provide the CO2 footprint.
Yeah.
What they can measure, and again, some of the suppliers are really, really good on that. And what we do, we take these products and offer them to our end customers as a better world product.
Yes.
And that's something which is absolutely fabulous, because it's a real differentiator to our competitors. And secondly, giving the customers a choice between the classical product and probably paying a little bit more, but getting a better world product with a lower CO2 footprint.
Of course.
So it's over the customer to decide what's for him the best solution.
And so, like you say, if you manufacture a product using Better World parts, I take it the actual phrase is Better World, isn't it? That's the actual official title.
Official term.
Yeah, like Ross and stuff. So if a product is made from Better World components, then you can charge more. But the customer's going to pay more because they know that they've bought something that's not been shipped three times from China to America, America to China, China back to wherever it's being sold to.
That's the point. Yeah.
Now, but again, going back to the passports, there has been discussion I've seen with some engineers about the idea of a product passport, whereby the entire chain, the entire existence of a product is essentially recorded. How much CO2 it used, what was the energy price that day, all those kind of different things, and you can stick it on a document, or like an electronic document that follows the product.
Right.
Now, the idea behind that sounds good in principle, but what worries me is if it starts to stifle innovation because you make things too expensive or inaccessible. So what would you say to someone like me who might be a bit concerned about stifling innovation?
I'm not too much concerned about that, because I think it's part of the innovation. And certainly what I do see in the moment from our end customers, when we get these products with the passport incorporated and integrated in the end customers' data lakes, because our customers are asking specifically for integrating the full product spec.
Yeah.
With all the data behind, especially CO2 footprint, into their data lakes. So when they build a product into their product, they need to know exactly what's the CO2 footprint or other elements in that.
And looking towards the future, do you see, especially the European Union, do you see it introducing possibly regulations and legislations that compel manufacturers to try and use Better World components and avoid the use of parts from overseas?
Absolutely. There will be more to come, I'm sure. And just one element, it's not 100% the same area, but what we just realized from the European Union, there is a new legislation coming in not to use any more Russian steel products.
And that's for obvious reasons. Why?
For obvious reasons. But again, that's something which needs to be administered again. Because we need to identify, and again, here we are on data, we need to identify in detail what is the content of the product in terms of where
is it going to be used?
Previous products in the product coming from.
And that's true as well, because there's and where the product might end up being used. Because I know some companies have had issues where There was one of those. There was sorry, I apologize. There was a memory manufacturer in South Korea whose parts were turning up in the Chinese Huawei. No, it's the Pro. It's the Pro 60. I think it was the Pro 60 Mate or something. It's the smartphone they just released.
Right.
It has 7-nanometer technology, which no one knows how they were able to do. And then suddenly a South Korean chip was found in there, and they're sitting there thinking, how did it get there in the first place? So, so these kind of product passports and these eco labels can probably help to prevent these things from being
correct.
Finding their way into places they shouldn't be.
Sounds like a lot of administrational burden for the manufacturers, but I think that's the future. And again,
it just has to be done.
Backed with all the data behind, that's the future. And digitalization journey is.
I think it would be fair to say that throughout human history, rules and regulations have been brought in to try and make people's lives better. And like you say, it might be a headache for manufacturers to start recording where all the parts are, what's being used in it and stuff. But you have to do it because you need to have due diligence, because you can't have your parts being used in countries which are either hostile to you or are, for example, in the Chinese case, where they tend to violate a lot of IP rights without any care at all. So you basically end up hurting yourself because you're funding a country that's actually trying to effectively steal your product and then sell it on the market. Now, just before we wrap up this interview, I've got one more question for you. For the viewers out there who are watching this video, where should they go if they want to learn more about the Better World components and these markings and the labels for new products?
Right. So my strong recommendation, go onto the RS webpage, rsonline.de for the German speakers.
DE.
And you will get a assortment when you enter the search term Better World products, and you will get the complete assortment of products. In the moment, just 20,000 out of 750,000 items we provide. But it's increasing. So definitely in the near future, next 1 or 2 years, we will increase this number of Better World products massively.
And you already offer 200,000 or 20,000. So you already offer 20,000 Better World components.
Correct.
That's impressive. Quite surprised. Well, that's fantastic. Well, anyway, thank you so much for taking the time to see us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Robin, thank you.